Welcome to the Burnout Room, a podcast about burnout, effective leadership, and wellness in nonprofits.
I'm Dr. Courtney Keim, a workplace wellness researcher and professor.
And I'm Sarah Burris, an organizational leader and nonprofit wellness advocate.
Whether you're facing burnout, leading a team, or working to build a healthier workplace, this is your space to find support, community, and solutions for any organization.
So on today's episode, we're digging into Glassdoor's workplace trends of 2026, and we're going to talk about what they mean for burnout and sustainability in the nonprofit sector. So Courtney, you want to get us started?
Yeah, I'll start by saying I love a countdown. I love a wrap up. I love a top 10 list. So,
Yes.
Glassdoor, you got me. You got me with your top trends. And I think there are like 6 trends, and we're going to go through these pretty quickly, but we're going to not just read off the trends to you, but give you kind of our take on what we think these trends mean and specifically what they mean for nonprofits, right? So the first trend that they talk about is the great employee leader disconnect. And with this trend, what these folks, I think, are finding through all of these postings that are happening on Glassdoor is that the connection between leaders and their staff is kind of greater than it's ever been. It's wider than it's been, at least in a long time. And this really, Sarah, got me thinking about this. What they talk about is this misalignment and how, senior managers just don't maybe understand what their employees want. Their employees want something different than what manager wants. The employees are becoming more critical of their leadership. And this disconnect is, when I saw this, the first thing I thought about was this idea of the psychological contract. So psychological contract theory is something that's been around for actually quite a long time in the research. And I have used psychological contract theory in my own research to explain the phenomenon of, how people are feeling in their jobs. And the reason why I've used it is because I think it's very intuitive. Even though you can have a very detailed, long handbook in an organization that lists out all of the things you could possibly imagine that an employee needs to know if they're, coming to work for you, you can't put everything in an actual physical contract. So the psychological contract is like the unwritten stuff that when I come and work for you, these are my expectations as an employee. When you hire me as an employer, I expect you to do these things, even though it's not really actually spelled out in the contract anywhere. So from an employee's perspective, the traditional psychological contract has been that I come to work, I do a good job, and you're going to give me job security. Yeah. You're going to not just fire me on a whim. You're going to pay me fair wages. You're going to provide me some benefits. And maybe some of those benefits are spelled out in an actual contract. But it's all kinds of benefits that I might get from my job, including things like work-life flexibility, for example, or a supportive environment. Also critically, and this is where the psychological part comes in, you are telling me by hiring me that I am going to get a sense of purpose and a sense of self-worth for doing the job well. So again, nowhere in a contract will this be written out, but this is just the understanding, an implicit understanding that we have. The employer is going to get dedicated employees who are doing their job well, satisfied with their job, and committed to their job. So, Sarah, I don't know if in all of the jobs that you have you ever had an employee handbook that is you must have high levels of job satisfaction to work here? That's probably not something you ever seen in an employee handbook.
No, it is certainly not. And it's certainly not something that I've ever this is the first time I've actually heard about what psychological contracts are. And I think it's really fascinating, and it makes a lot of sense that you essentially have like you called them these unwritten rules and expectations that people expect when they're at work. So no, I have not ever seen in the jobs that I've had, somebody ask me if you can't work here, if you're not super satisfied with working here. I would be very interested to see what that language would look like.
Right. I mean, but it's expected though. We kind of expect it in our jobs. We expect that when I come in, I am going to get a sense of safety and security and respect. And you expect that I'm going to be happy to work here and put a smile on my face and come in and do a really great job. And so
Yeah.
I think about, so in the technical researchy term is a breach of the psychological contract is what happens. So if
Yeah.
I'm in a situation where I'm like, hey, we were under an understanding here that I was going to come in and do all of this great work for you, and you were going to give me security and fair wages and benefits and a sense of self-worth. And I'm not feeling that. I feel like the contract is broken or breached. And
Yeah.
that, I don't know if you've ever been in a contract with someone and the contract was breached, but there is a sense of like betrayal and distrust. And
Yes.
that's where I think maybe some of this misalignment that we're seeing in these Glassdoor ratings might be coming from.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have, in fact, been a part of a contract deal that was breached. And not only does it make you feel like terrible towards the entity that you were in a contract with, but it also makes you really skeptical anytime you enter into any new contract. So, yeah, I think that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, anytime somebody who you trust breaks that trust, you are going to be very careful about
Mhm.
trusting them again. And I think that a lot of employees, what may be coming out in these low ratings of leaders that you're seeing in Glassdoor is that they don't trust these leaders anymore. There's just becoming a big disconnect. Maybe the contract is broken, maybe there's distrust. And maybe the research shows, you probably wouldn't be surprised to show that like when psychological contract breach happens, things like productivity goes down, performance goes down, the kind of extra behaviors that we might do coming into work early, helping pick up shifts, like going above and beyond, those start to get dialed down, which,
Yeah.
that reduced personal accomplishment is one of the key markers of burnout is when you start dialing down the work.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I was really interested to see the breakdown of the words that they saw an influx in over the last year. Misalignment being so in the article, it's like 140 something percent increase in the use of that word. Like that's crazy to me. So I appreciate kind of the way that you framed that, where it's like maybe people are just feeling like their employers are kind of not holding up the end of their bargain.
Yeah. And to also talk about just some of those stats that it's in that Glassdoor article, disconnection up 24%, distrust 26%, hypocrisy 18%,
Yeah.
miscommunication 25%. But I think you're right. Like the one that was really hitting home, the one that was really quite surprising was misalignment up 149%. Now,
Yeah.
I do kind of wonder though, no shade to my practitioner friends and my friends that are not in academia like myself, but are in the business world. But part of me kind of wonders if misalignment is a buzzword that's really trying to explain a phenomenon. It's like kind of the it word of the day, if you will. It's the
Yeah.
corporate speak word that everybody's kind of using to describe what essentially is distrust and breach of the contract and all of those things. So I don't know that misalignment is like the perfect word to describe the phenomenon. It may just be the one that everybody is using right now because maybe it's, hip or cool or something that I'm not aware of.
Yeah. I am neither of those things, so I could not speak to that.
Yeah. If it doesn't come across my For You page, then, or if I don't hear my teenager saying it, then I don't know if it's hip otherwise.
Yeah, but I think that distrust piece is really where it is. And I think in that article, it talks about how during the pandemic, we actually saw folks have like a higher amount of trust for their leaders as they were watching them kind of navigate through this, unforeseen circumstance that like we all were forced to navigate through. So to kind of see that trust like whittle away as we see like return to office and like things like that, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. A lot of organizations were greatly tested during the pandemic, and a lot of leaders stepped up in a way that where we saw increase in trust, we saw an increase in productivity and performance, and in a really like difficult time.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's the cause or the underlying mechanism that's explaining the distrust? Like, who knows? I couldn't say for sure. But I have told you this before. I have said it, and I will say it again. Anytime I think about trust in an organization, the first thing that I think about is communication.
Yeah.
Effective, efficient, frequent, authentic communication is the way to build trust. And so if you are a leader in a nonprofit and you are trying to figure out like, oh, is there misalignment? Is there distrust that's happening? What could I do about it? That's what you can do, is just increase the amount of communication that you are giving to your employees.
Yeah, and I think that piece about authenticity is critically important and likely why we saw less of a disconnect during the pandemic. Like nothing humanizes a person like going through a traumatic event with those people. And like that's what that was. Like we were all just humans who were going through a really hard time at that point. We were all on the same level. And of course, people were doing different tasks and charged with different decision making and things like that. But we were all just people trying to get through a pandemic. And now as that situation has kind of resolved itself as much as it can resolve itself, we're starting to see maybe that humanization of each other dwindle a bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I really hadn't thought about it in that way. I think during the pandemic, a lot of leaders were very willing to say, we don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty, but here's what we do know. Here's what we're doing right now. Like there was a lot of communication that was happening. And I think maybe now there's been some regression back to the mean, if you will. Like a lot of leaders might be going back towards those old tropes of withholding information. Don't say anything until we know. Don't tell people. And during the pandemic, there was just a lot more frankness, maybe a lot more of just, I'm a human, you're a human, we're just humans trying to get through this together. I do not wish or want to go back to the pandemic times, but maybe there are some lessons that were learned during that we could just remind ourselves. I'm a human, you're a human, let's be humans to get through this together. Yeah. That kind of takes us into the second trend in this Glassdoor article, which is talking about the forever layoff, quote unquote. And it's talking about how there is now this phenomenon of maybe not so many huge big layoffs. Oh, those still do happen, but more of like this rolling layoff. People are just constantly seeing their jobs cut. There's a lot of cuts that are happening at small organizations. I think that the article says that like 50% almost of the layoffs that are happening right now are like 50 or fewer people who are getting laid off at a time. And I just so happen to have done research in a term that I think unfortunately fits really well when we think about like what this means for people who are in a situation where layoffs are kind of happening constantly in this way. And that is a term called job insecurity. So have I told the story on the podcast yet about how I got into that topic?
No,
My inspiration
I don't know that I know
research?
That. No.
Oh, great. Okay. So I'll tell you the story really quickly. I started doing research on job insecurity because not baby Courtney, but little younger Courtney in her graduate school days I was in graduate school during the Great Recession. So it was like 2008. You remember the housing bubble burst. It was awful. And a lot of people were worried about losing their jobs because there was a lot of layoffs and stuff. And at the time, I was at a point in my graduate training where it was time for me to come up with my own research project and complete that project. And I was struggling to find a topic that was something that I cared about enough that I could do it for about a year and really focus on this topic. And I went to my advisor and he said, just be a person in the world and just see like what's happening around you and you'll find something. And I was like, okay. At some point, I was driving to pass my dad's office, and my dad at the time was a computer programmer who worked for a contractor for the U.S. Postal Service. And his office was like near where I was driving. So I called my dad and said, hey, I'm driving by your work. Can I stop by and see you? Like, you want to come? He was like, I can't come out right now. I was like, oh, okay, you're busy. And he was like, no, I'm not busy, but I cannot give these people any reason to fire me. I was like, Dad, what do you mean fire you? Like, are they laying people off? Are you worried about getting fired? And he started to kind of like talk about how he was older. All these young people are coming in. They have degrees. They're going to come replace him. People who know coding better than he does. And it was really amazing to me to see not just the fact that he was worried about losing his job, because of course I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for you. Like this must be so stressful, but also like the way that that changed his behavior. So he didn't even want to go take a break, which he was rightfully able to do, to come
Yeah.
meet his daughter in the parking lot just to say hi, because he was like, anything that I do that's bad or wrong, or, I don't want to put a target on my back and I'm the one that's getting fired. So that feeling, I said, what is that? I wonder if that's called something. And of course, I go into the literature, and lo and behold, it's a term called job insecurity. And there's been decades of research about it. And I was able to find where's the hole in that research, and let me see if I can try to fill it. But
Mm-hmm.
I immediately, when I saw that topic, I was like, I know what that feels like. I have worked at jobs where I've seen people getting fired, and I've been thinking about, am I next? Am I next? What do I do so I'm not next? What will I do if I lose my job? How will I pay my bills? It's very stressful to be in that situation. And job insecurity is exactly what happens to the people who are the survivors of the layoffs. Of course, the people who are getting laid off, that's awful.
Yeah.
Unemployment. We know that there's a lot of research on unemployment and its relationship to negative mental and physical health outcomes. But even the people who don't get fired, just working in an environment where people are kind of constantly getting laid off, can increase your perceptions of job insecurity. Even if you're a great worker, you still feel like there's no control that I have over this. There's nothing I can do. It's inevitable, maybe. That stress response, again, Sarah, you might not be surprised to find that in the research, guess what? Job insecurity is correlated with things like, I don't know, negative health and well-being for the employee because of the stress response, lower job
Right.
satisfaction, lower organizational commitment, lower performance, higher turnover intentions. When people are working in places where they feel worried about losing their jobs, they're going to change the way they behave, and it's going to affect them, and it's going to affect their work and their performance.
I mean, which makes sense, right? Like when you think about it from a common sense perspective, like if people are not feeling safe, they're not going to perform to their best abilities because they're worried, they're afraid that something's going to happen. I'm wondering, like, is part of that, because I'm trying to think of it from a nonprofit perspective, which feels a little challenging in this, because at least from my perspective, like, if we laid off three people in our office, there would be no people in our office. So that's not quite the reality that I'm living in. But I could certainly see correlations with that around like grant funding not being as, accessible, or being more competitive, and losing people for that reason, and being concerned that the programs that you've been working on are going to get cut because funding gets cut. So I can certainly see it there. Um, I'm also kind of wondering like what, and maybe this doesn't matter, maybe it's just this is the phenomenon that's happening, but like what the rationale behind doing like forever layoffs like this as opposed to doing like a large layoff is. Like, is it like, the bad guy in the movie that's like, I'm going to make an example out of somebody and I'm going to fire that person so that they know that I'm in charge? Or is it like, yeah, I just don't know. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I wish that I knew what the
Yeah.
answer to that is. There is a lot of research to show that over the long term, layoffs are not effective at cost reduction
Okay.
because of what you lose when you lay people off. It is an
Right.
immediate way to balance a budget. There's no denying that if I have fewer people working for me, fewer benefits that I have to pay, it's a quick fix. But in the long run, the research shows that the negative effects of the survivors, job insecurity, stress, the loss of people who are able to do good creative work for you means that you're
Mhm.
going to be missing out on providing whatever great services need to be provided, or inventing the new invention, or creating whatever product it is that you're creating. I don't know. Like, I am not sure what the rationale is, except for If you're a for-profit company, it seems pretty evident that it's immediate profit loss, bottom line. Shareholders expect for you to, fix the budget.
Well, from that perspective, though, when you think about it again, like from a what seems to me just a layperson over here hanging out, as like a common sense thing is that it costs more to replace a person. So even if you're like getting rid of and balancing your budget, you still are going to have to hire some people back to do the work that you need done. So you're still going to be spending more money. So even the financial piece doesn't necessarily make sense to me in that regard.
I don't know if I can make these mass layoffs, these forever layoffs make sense. Maybe that's something for an economist to talk about. Maybe we could get an economist on the podcast to talk about it.
Yeah.
But what I do know is how these layoffs make people feel. And how they make people feel is not great. They make people feel like they are not safe. They make people feel like things are uncertain. They make people feel like their livelihoods are at risk, and that is going to dial down performance and increase turnover. It's just not great. It's not great. Moving on to trend number 3, also maybe not great, Sarah, is the slow-mo RTO, which is a very funny way of saying something that maybe a lot of people are not really happy about right now, which is the slow motion return to office mandates. You're seeing a lot of organizations that were very open during COVID, maybe reluctantly open during COVID, to let people have a lot of flexibility. And a lot of organizations are now making people come back to work, either full-time back in the office or at least not fully remote and sometime in the office. So yeah, maybe we could talk about like why you think that is happening.
I don't know. I think that there was a lot. So again, like during the pandemic, like we were forced to go remote. It just wasn't safe to be in person with each other at that point, and everybody needed the flexibility because our kids, those of us with kids, were at home on, doing school, and we had just had to navigate things a little differently during the pandemic. And now I think the return to office mandates are really just trying to get back to whatever the status quo was pre-pandemic, which now that people have kind of had a taste for what that flexibility is and have been able to like integrate it into their lives, to better balance both their life needs and their work needs. I think people are more resistant to going back in the office because they've seen that it works. They've seen that it can be efficient and productive. I mean, part of the argument could be organizations have rental agreements that they're paying for and like they don't have people in the office. I think people would make arguments that they anecdotally believe they get better productivity from people when they're together. Maybe the culture feels a little different when everybody's in the same place. I think there are a lot of not excuses, but a lot of excuses that people could make that RTO is like the only way to go. That is certainly not the argument that I would make, but I think that a lot of people are just thinking that they're going to get more efficiency out of their folks if they can see them and oversee them while they're doing their tasks.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Do you know that 50% of all managers or supervisors never get any training on how to be a supervisor or a manager?
As a person who fits in that category, that does not surprise me.
Right. So if these managers are not trained on how to even manage when you are in front of me, how am I supposed to manage you remotely? And the lack of training for managers is one of the reasons why I think that a lot of organizations are saying you have to come back to work. Because when you look at the research is actually pretty clear that when you give people flexibility and you give them control and autonomy over their schedule, their performance increases. When you make people come back to work, it's not good for the performance of the organization. But it's really hard for, I think, some leaders to believe that because they don't, how do I know if somebody is really doing good work from home? They don't know how to supervise the people from home. They don't know how to support them from home. So I think that is part of it. The other part, again, is that the people who are working from home are not sure how do I get promoted in this organization?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's a really great point. And one that comes up in this Glassdoor article is that people who are working remotely are even reporting that like remote work maybe doesn't necessarily feel great for them right now either because they feel kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Um, I think that it's really just about creating a balance for people and giving people options for what works best for them. I know in our organization, I talked about during, when I talked about my burnout story, like we were remote for a really long time and it made me feel more disconnected. And so going back into the office was something that was right for me. Now, I do have the ability to enjoy a flexible work modality. If I need to be at home because my kid is injured and I need to be there for him, I can still do some work if I need to do that. So I think there's a balance there, but I think that when we see maybe employers kind of like mandate, hey, we're coming back because we think that productivity is better when you're in the office, really the narrative that you're telling people is, hey, you all can't handle being remote because we don't think you're doing the work that we want you to do. So you need to come back here so we can watch you and make sure you're doing what we need you to do. Which might honestly attribute to that first trend that we talked about, that like leader employee divide. It's like, when you talk about like misalignment or distrust, it's like, well, if we're doing these return to office because you think that you're not getting the productivity levels that you should be expecting, you're saying you don't trust us to do that work on our own and that you have to watch over us in order to do it.
Yeah. You had said a really couple of key words there when you were giving that example, which is we think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is exactly what's happening is that a lot of organizations are assuming.
Yeah.
They are assuming that culture is bad. They're assuming that creativity and productivity is down. They're assuming that people are not working. They think that it's going to be better if you're back to work, but they don't know that for sure. Like, unless you are like actively collecting and analyzing good data in your organization, you don't know. Um, I'm sure you've heard the adage of like, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right?
Oh, yes.
The genie is out of the bottle, as they say,
Mm-hmm.
because balancing the demands of your home life and your work life are such a significant source of stress. When you take this thing away from me that I have now figured out is a great tool for me to be able to balance that stress, which is being able to work from home, you take that away from me and I'm a good worker, what you're doing is you're forcing a good employee out the door to go work for your competitor. Like that's
Yeah.
what's going to happen because these people now, the genie is out of the bottle, the toothpaste is out of the tube. They know that there's another way to be and another way to work. And so I think you're right. Like this could be part of the misalignment, numbers that are coming is these leaders that are demanding this return to office. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think a lot of it has to do with like real estate and investing in spaces. And they see that offices are empty and why am I paying for the electric bill in this big building and why do we have this big building and the cost of all of that. I think for our nonprofit folks who are listening, they probably can see that where jobs are able to have flexibility and control and autonomy is where you're going to see the ability for you to be able to be lean in your staffing and to
Mm-hmm.
be nimble in your staffing. As you said, you are able to work from home when one of your kids might be sick because of that, the amount of flexibility that you have. This nonprofit, KPF, needs to be that way
Mm-hmm.
because there's so few staff like you
Right.
so it has to be flexible. You don't want to lose the good people that you have. So I think our nonprofit friends should really be like maybe trying to fight against this trend in
Mm-hmm.
2026 of return to office and go more towards the trend that we had during the pandemic, which is maybe work from home. But whatever it is, whatever the policy is just about autonomy and control and flexibility.
Yeah, and I will say, just like anecdotally, so I have a friend of mine who worked for a nonprofit organization in Kentucky who did do a mandatory RTO, and she left that that organization because the way that her life had been structured since the pandemic, like kind of required her to be able to go pick her kids up from the bus stop, like things like that. So I also do kind of think that this return to office stuff disproportionately affects mothers and women. So it's kind of it's on us as employers to ensure that we're not just putting policies on people because we think that that's what's best for our organization. Like what's best for our organization is to have passionate people who want to do the work, who are skilled to do the work, and that we're not like disenfranchising them just because we're paying rent in a building. Like I think that there needs to be a balance there if we want to keep the folks that we know are good.
Yeah. And don't follow this trend because everybody else is doing it. This may
No.
not be the trend that like suits your organization. So
Yeah, it's
just,
not like 90s jeans making a comeback. It's like it doesn't have to be that way. Like we can leave those things in the past. It's
yeah.
okay.
Can we leave the 90s jeans in the past? Because let me
I
tell you, all these children running around, they dress exactly how we used to dress in the
yeah,
90s. Like it's so funny. The trends have come back.
they
So
sure
yeah,
have.
don't follow the jeans trends of the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just if you want to hang on to your skinny jeans, millennial women do that. Do not listen. You do not have to wear mom jeans if you don't want them. Although I did see a pair of Jinko jeans in the wild, and I don't know if you remember what Jinko jeans are, but those that caught me by surprise. So yes, you can
Okay.
follow trends, but you also like don't have to.
Yeah, like also just wear the jeans that are good for your body, right?
Wear the jeans that are good for your body. Keep the people in your organization that are good for your organization, whether they can be in your office or on a computer screen.
That's right. Very, very
Yes.
good. Speaking of things that like seem like they never end, that goes to our next trend, which is about AI.
AI.
AI isn't bringing employees down yet. And the reason why I say it's always around, I think ever since I have been alive, I have heard that this newfangled technology that we have is going to
Mhm.
be the downfall of all of humanity, like whatever the
Yeah.
technology is at the time. Now, will AI be the downfall of humanity? I don't know. TBD. Like
Maybe.
this, like this is what this article is saying is like we just don't know yet how much
Mhm.
it's gonna how much is it going to replace? How many jobs will it replace? We obviously could do an entire podcast just on AI in the workplace. I know that it's every conference I go to, every webinar that I see is talking about this topic. So I don't want us to go too far down that rabbit hole today.
Mhm.
Here's what I will say. Whatever the trends of that are happening in I think that especially for nonprofits, there's a lot of the work that nonprofits do that just cannot be replaced by AI
Yeah.
or any machine. A lot of what nonprofits do is human connection, contact. It is on boots on the ground, as they say, work that has to be done. And that's what I think that organizations, especially nonprofits, should be focusing on in 2026
Yeah.
is, yeah, the human connection that we have with each other.
Absolutely. I think that there are some ways that you can use AI as a resource for your folks. People are stretched thin. Like I'll throw an email into an AI platform and ask it to just rework it for me so it sounds more professional or whatever. Like that's just like a quick thing that I can use it for. But it's certainly not gonna like print name badges for me for my event. It's not gonna like make phone calls that I need to make with people. There are definitely pieces of AI that you can use to your advantage. But as Taylor Swift says, try to come for my job. Try to come for my job, AI. I've seen Smart House. I am prepared.
Okay, good. I am so glad that you are prepared. I am not prepared
I mean, I
for
I think I'm prepared.
for
I'm just
AI.
I'm maybe I'm blustering and I'm
Yeah,
far too confident, but
yeah.
like
No, and again, I do think we could have an entire episode about this, and I have so many thoughts about AI and where we are.
yeah.
I do think it's going to be, but you know what? We've been talking about AI for years. Like, I think
Mhm.
we're on like year 10 of artificial intelligence and big data. I did, when I went to a conference a few months ago, somebody who was talking about AI in the conference said AI tools platforms are the worst that they will ever be right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So they're only going to get better. Okay. That's great.
Mhm.
I just really feel like the better they get, the more we are going to crave human connection. And I
Yeah.
think the work that humans are doing in service to others, which is the central focus of what so many nonprofits are doing, is going to be so much more important. Could a veteran go online and use a chatbot some AI chatbot to find access to resources to help them navigate, some issue that they're dealing with? Yes, they could. Is that
Yeah.
going to replace the human connection that they feel when they talk to somebody at the DAV who is listening to their story, telling their own story and making that connection? Like there's just
Right.
no that it's not going to replace that. I can't be too cynical to think that the important work that nonprofits are doing is going to be replaced by AI. And I would say, like, if you're a leader right now, especially in a nonprofit, don't follow the dangly lights over here, right? Like
Yeah.
don't buy into the hype that this is going to fix all of your problems or it's going to be able to reduce your workforce in half. Like I don't I'm not. It's not going to cure everything, and it's not going to doom everything. I'm somewhere in between an optimist and a realist. I think when it comes to this, I think. But again, I would just say for 2026, you got to focus on the people and like what is the purpose of us being on this earth together, if not human connection? And that's where I think our focus should be as leaders, is going back to get rid of that misalignment and go back to aligning with your staff and your employees. Because you know
Yeah.
what? If anybody should be concerned about having AI replace their jobs, it's managers and supervisors and CEOs, because those are the
Yeah.
ones that are probably the most easily replaceable by a machine. Those frontline staff people, they're not going to be replaced. So you better make
Yeah.
yourself as a leader, make yourself like indispensable by being like having the most connection with your folks and having the most care and concern that you can for your employees.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. I think the only other thing that I would want to say about AI and nonprofits and really just AI in general is that we will likely continue to see people using AI sources for things. Like, you're asking Chat GPT or some open source like a question, and it's not necessarily pulling you credible like information, like it's just pulling you information. So like make sure you're checking your sources on things, make sure that you are getting credible information. Don't just rely on what open AI sources are telling you, because I think that that could likely get you in some trouble. So I think I think the point that you're making about human connection is the right point. And that's really what we should be focused on as nonprofit and really just workplace people. We should be focused on cultivating human connection and relationships with the people around us. But also just pay attention to what it's spitting out at you, because it's not all going to be accurate.
Yeah. There's a podcast that I love to listen to that's called Vibe Check. And they were talking about AI in a relatively recent episode. And I got so tickled listening to them talk about it because apparently somebody must have been on the TikTok or something talking about how they were using AI to write their wedding vows.
Don't do
And
that.
and it was what are we doing? What are we doing? And I get it. Like you want something that's like beautifully written and you want something that has great prose but I tell you, especially as a professor, I would much rather read a really crappily written, but very personal and meaningful essay paper from a student than
Yeah.
read an AI generated paper. Like, do not marry me with like AI written vows. Like, I would
No.
give me what is coming from your heart, not what is coming from a computer. Like leaders, come on. You don't use AI to like pretend like I care about my employees. What would I say to like? Don't use AI for that.
Yeah, you can do it. I
You can
promise.
do it. You can be a human.
even if you're a millennial like me and you have to reread your email 30 times before you send it out, I promise you can do it.
Yes, you can
I
do it.
believe
You
in
can do
you.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, trend 5 is job seekers will take what they can get. Hiring is at a 10-year low, tough
Yeah.
labor market. Yeah, I was thinking about this, we're going to take whatever we can get kind of
Mm-hmm.
attitude. Hold on a second. Like, if from a nonprofit perspective, especially, regardless of what's happening with the unemployment rate, with the larger economy, like, regardless of what's happening with these trends, you got to get back to like basics, like
Mm-hmm.
good hiring practices,
Yes.
intentional hiring practices. We're not going to change our standards or change our hiring practices and just start bringing in people and say, I'm just going to take whoever and they're just going to do what I say because
Mm-hmm.
they have to take this job because there are no other jobs out. No, 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 no. Like, we're not going to stop onboarding people well. We're not going to stop, being selective in our hiring in a fair way that's based in I'm obligated as an IO psychologist. Anytime this comes up, I do have to say the words job analysis on when we talk about selection. So, like, if you are hiring, like, you should have a good understanding of what the job is, what it takes to do the job well, what are the knowledge, skills, abilities that are needed
Mm-hmm.
for top performers doing that job, and use that information to decide who to hire and have good hiring practices, good interviews, or assessments. Like, we're not just going to stop doing all of that because
Right.
like, these job seekers will just take whatever they can get. Like, don't do that in 2026.
Don't do that in 2026. I think the only thing that I would add to that is just if you're hiring in 2026, um, we recently hired someone here in the last 6 months, and, we got a lot of applications in for a lot of different folks. And it was clear that some folks were just looking for a job, which, like, obviously, I get it, we get it. But we really paid a lot of close attention to people who seemed like they were really invested in our mission. And I think that when you go that route, when you even might put like passion for mission slightly above like skills, like currently developed skills, like I think you're going to see more longevity in those folks than folks who are just like, I need a job right now and this is an open job that I can do. So I would just encourage folks to really be intentional about your mission. Make sure you're clearly communicating what your mission is to folks who might be applying for your job, and select folks who seem like it's important to them that they be a part of your organization to fulfill that mission.
Can I say another thing that people should not do in 2026?
Yes.
Do not do this. This really actually is something that like presses a hot button in me. Do not post jobs for which you are actually not hiring. Have you heard about this trend?
Do not do that.
Have you heard about this trend, Sarah?
No.
Okay, so I teach college students. A lot of them are out there applying for internships and jobs. There are so many organizations that are out there posting jobs where they have no intention of filling them.
Why?
Well, that is a great question. I
Answer that question for me, please.
You would have, I mean, you'd have to ask them for all of the reasons, but I think one of the reasons is they can tell their people who work for them, we're hiring. You guys keep doing all this extra work. We're going to fill a position we're getting somebody in here to help you out. Like, I think that's part of it. But I don't know I know. I'm like the look on your face right now.
Don't do that. If you're doing that, stop it.
It's awful. It's awful. And then also, like, you can tell your board of directors or you can tell your shareholders, like, we're hiring, we're growing, look, we're hiring, but you have actually no intention of hiring anyone. The poor people who are out there, and I don't mean poor, like, I mean, like, these sad, like, lonely people, these people who are out there applying for jobs and are getting no calls back, which is demoralizing
Yes.
and so stressful to them. They don't even know which jobs that they are applying for are actually real jobs or if they are just fake job postings.
That's crazy. Attention, anyone who's doing that in 2026. Don't. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, what a way to like really like talk about building distrust and
Yeah.
misalignment is being if you are the kind of person who does that.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Also, if you're going to post a job, post the salary in your job, post the hours that you're
Ooh, hot
expected.
take.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if is that a hot take? Like, maybe I feel like you're okay. I won't get you in trouble if that's a hot take. Oh, okay, good, good, good. We're on the same page here. Maybe. I don't know. I can't read your face right now. But what I'm saying is
No, the
that
reason why you can't hear my face is because I think I may have just seen a firefighter outside of my
oh,
office because they're testing the fire alarm today and there's all kinds of things that are happening. So
I am
that's
obsessed with this.
the look on my face. But please continue. They're
uh,
they're fine. They're fine. It's
Honorary
all good.
ripple of gratitude to the firefighters who are in Courtney's building, testing all of the fire alarms and keeping her safe. Thank you, firefighters. Um, yeah, I just think that like if you want to be a supportive organization and you want to hire people, you should be very authentic and upfront about what it is you're offering. I feel like so people in my orbit, my personal orbit, have been looking for jobs. And may have run into issues that you're talking about, like would apply for things, would never get calls back, or would apply for things, would go in for interviews, and then they would like switcheroo on what actually the job position is and the pay, which is always lower than what they may have posted on, the sites that you post job openings on. So a good way to provide folks with some organizational trust right off the bat is just to be authentic in what it is you're offering. Like if folks don't apply for your position, then you need to go back to the drawing board and reconsider what it is you can offer for folks to want to come to your organization. You should not lie about what it is that you are offering to people. And then once you get them in the door, change it up. Like that does not start your relationship off on a good foot.
No, no, just stop with the lying. Just stop with the lying.
Yes.
Don't lie
A
that you're
good trend for
hiring.
2026 would be an authentic leader who is honest and who you can build and you can build a layer of trust with. Be that
Yeah.
leader. Be that person.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Last trend here
Yes.
to talk about is the trend of, talking about new grads who can get a job and having them be able to get paid more, which great for
Yes.
them.
Kudos.
Yeah, I mean, please. We were just talking about like having job salaries posted and being able to get realistic and well-paying jobs. Like, of course, all for that. It did
Yes.
say like for the ones who can get it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of nonprofits I know would probably love to pay people more. They would love to
Mhm.
hire people at a higher wage when they bring them on, even new grads, but they can't. And so I do think we can't just say like, if we're thinking about this from the nonprofit lens, it's a little disingenuous to just say like, give people more money when we know
Right.
that a lot of nonprofits are feeling budget constraints, loss of grant funding. It's a really tough time right now for nonprofits. So
Yeah.
what I would say is that in the wake of not being able to offer more money, what else can I offer? Just invest in your people in whatever way you
Mhm.
can. Develop them in a way that is possible for you in your budget. You can't promote them, you can't give them a raise, okay, but are there other things that you can do to support them? Job crafting, can you let
Mhm.
them like create new parts of their job that they don't currently do that allows them to like gain new valuable skills? Job rotation, like literally just having them go and do different jobs in the organization so that they can learn different things for you, which can really help if you run a very lean organization. Just what are the things that you can do to like turn back on your employees and say, I would love to pay you more. I can't pay you more. Here's what I can offer you. I can offer you a more flexible schedule. I can
Yeah.
offer you a 4-day work week. I can offer to let you work from home 1 day a week more than what you're working right now. Like whatever it is, just
Mhm.
find a way to invest in your people. And when you're bringing new people on, make sure that you're focusing on their growth and development, even if you
Yeah.
can't afford to promote them.
Yeah, check mark to all those points because I think that's really it. It's I'm coming into this organization. I like the salary is going to be fixed, but maybe I need more flexibility because I have children at home and I need to go pick them up from school. Is that something you can work with? Maybe I want to work remote 1 day a week so I don't have to get up and rush here into the office and I can sit in my sweatpants and do my work. Like there are things that we can do to make people's experience at work more enjoyable for them. To be honest, this podcast for me is an excellent example. This was a thing that did not exist. It was like a little thing that I was like, this would be so much fun to do. Courtney and I want to do this podcast, boss. And he was like, go for it. And that's a thing for me that's like, that, yes, it's work, but it's something I enjoy. It's a piece of my pie that I look forward to doing. So even when I'm like, you know, working through other things that maybe aren't my favorite, I know that, 1 day a week, I get to come hang out with Courtney and do this podcast. So it's like
Yeah.
giving people just the word of the day is autonomy, giving people some autonomy to job craft, to add some things that they find enjoyable could go a long way when you can't afford to pay them a six-figure salary.
Yeah, I think that that should be the trend of 2026 is more autonomy. Let these grown-ups be grown. Let them be in control of their life. Let them be the humans that they need to be. Yeah, speaking of that, then Sarah, like I thought it would be really good for us to like end this conversation by thinking about what is KPF doing? What is your
Mm.
organization doing to kind of set up for a great 2026? So we talked about like what work, life trends we think are coming from Glassdoor here, but like from your small nonprofit world, what are you guys actually doing to like set up for a fantastic 2026?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the year for us feels really busy and like we're rushing around doing things. So it's really important for me and our organization, especially towards the beginning of the year, is to sit down and like look at what our calendar actually looks like for the year. Go ahead and set some hard deadlines for events and things like that that we have coming up, just so we feel like that there's some structure. Like we may not sit down and do like full project planning for an event, but we know like the major deadlines that we need to hit, like when things need to be online, blah, blah, blah. So we're doing a lot of that right now. And we're also going back and looking at, so our organization, we put on continuing education events throughout the year. The Kentucky Psychological Foundation puts on public education events for the year. And after each of those, we send out surveys to get feedback from folks. So we'll review that feedback at the beginning of this year, just to start getting like new ideas, maybe thinking about pivoting some things in a way based on feedback that we received. So we're starting to do that, which I think is really helpful. And it kind of sets a nice foundation for everybody just to like, I don't know, sit down, take a look, see what the year is going to look like, see where we might have some lag time where we could schedule like a staff retreat or something like that, where we kind of know what our year is going to play out like. Of course, things are going to come up that are not going to fit within that structure. But that always feels like a good, that's a good place for us to start typically. It's just get some organization under our belt. Um,
I'm all for the organization. Love it. Calendar,
yes.
approve.
Yes. We're also like another thing that I think is kind of important, especially for smaller organizations. So we're like kind of collaborative. Like we'll just sit in a room and hang out and talk with each other and work, with each other in the same space. The beginning of the year feels like a good time to do like some individual check-ins on a regular basis with people. So just making sure that we're all on the same page, that everybody has the supplies and support they need to be successful, stuff like that. That was kind of a thing that I learned through my burnout process, was like those regular check-ins just to make sure that everybody's feeling good about where we are, that everybody has everything that they need, things like that. And I think that, you mentioned earlier about just like the importance of communication and just making sure that we're communicating with people. Um, and then like everybody's favorite thing, Courtney, is reviewing policy and procedure documents.
Woohoo.
Woo! Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about like hiring and things like that. Like you just always want to make sure that you've got a good understanding of what's in those policy and procedure documents, just so if you are onboarding someone else, it makes sense. Also, it's just good to make sure that that stays up to date. Um, and then the other piece that I've really been thinking a lot about, especially throughout this podcast, is building relationships with other nonprofits or other people who are kind of like in this space, and just trying to build relationships with those folks to maybe do something collaborative throughout the year. So I would highly recommend folks take a look at some other nonprofits that are in your area and see if you can build a relationship with somebody. Maybe do, a co-branded event or something, or utilize expertise from one organization to help provide services for the folks that your organization touches.
Oh, those are all some really like great practical things that I think that a lot of organizations can do to set up for a really successful 2026. So I appreciate you sharing those with us. I was thinking how very different it is in the world of academia, which is where I am, which is on an academic year
Yeah.
cycle. And it always, these kind of like end of the year, beginning of the year countdown things for me don't quite hit home because I'm in the middle of my year. So
Right.
this is not the end of a year and the beginning of something new. So I am glad that you came with the examples for how to make 2026 great, because what I'm doing at the beginning of 2026 is just doing, I mean, it's just continuing on with right where I left off in 2025. And then in the summer is when I will do that kind of step back and take a bigger glance over what the larger picture is, those
Yeah.
one-on-one meetings that can happen before the next semester year starts. So the only reason why I mentioned that is because I was thinking too that like some organizations their fiscal year may be different from the calendar
Yeah.
year. And so 2026 may not, just because the year is ending, doesn't mean that your organization is having that natural turn point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would echo that and just say that like figure out a time that works for you within your calendar year to have these kind of conversations with your folks and to prepare these things. Because I mean that makes total sense to me. That you would not you're not thinking about new year, new me yet. Like you're in last year still me, and then, later in the summer, you'll get into New Year, New Me. So, yeah, whenever it works out for your organization. But these are definitely things that I think set us up for success when we talk about how we're going to move forward into the next phase, whatever that may be. And I just think it comes down to like making sure that you've got a structure for people, making sure that everybody is aware and knows what their expectations are around deadlines and things like that. And then just being really communicative with folks, which we should be doing year round. But if you need to like kind of get restarted, like this is a good time of year to just kind of like get restarted on those.
Oh. We won't know for sure, of course, what 2026 is going to hold,
We
but
sure won't.
I think we can make a prediction that there will be more of the Burnout Room podcast in 2026. So here is to that.
Cheers. Cheers to that. And like we mentioned, we've already said what we think some trends should be, which is like, be an authentic leader, start building some trust. Like that's a good trend for this year. What was the other one? There was another one.
Wear whatever jeans you want to wear.
Wear whatever jeans you want to wear. Yes, this is very important. Wear whatever jeans you want to wear. And then just, yeah, take care of your people. Talk to your
Yeah.
people. Because they'll tell you what they need.
Yeah, exactly. They will tell you what they need.
If you have psychological safety.
Oh, see our episode on psychological
Oh,
safety.
see?
Yeah.
It's almost
Yeah.
like we know what we're talking about. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Sarah, thank you. This is a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, Courtney.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Oh, another trend for 2026. Appreciate people.
Yeah.
So we've reached the part of our podcast where we like to do our ripples of gratitude. And for those of you who have not joined us before or may not remember, the ripples of gratitude segment is just an opportunity for us to say that we're thankful for someone or a group of people. And we hope that by expressing these gratitudes, that folks might take that and express gratitude to the folks around them, and it will ripple out. So my ripple of gratitude today, as we're into the early stages of 2026, is to reflect back on all of those retail workers and grocers who did so much during the holiday season to ensure that we had access to all the things that we needed to have a good holiday with our families. So, you know, I really enjoy the people at my local grocery store. Like, they're always the same faces, they know my kids' names. Like, it's just nice to be surrounded by people like that in the community. And I just really appreciate them. Same goes for retail workers. I have seen recently that larger organizations like Amazon are implementing these tip your driver um, platform. So like when you get a package in, you can go through, scan that, and you can leave a tip for your driver. So like also big kudos to organizations that are trying to incentivize folks to take care of the people that are providing them services. So that's who my ripple goes out to today. Courtney, what about you?
So my ripple, we've been talking a lot about these trends for 2026, and one of the trends we were talking about is AI and computers, and if all of these machines are going to replace us. And so my ripple actually comes from the TikTok. So I was coming across on my For You page. I've gotten so enchanted by this organization that I saw on TikTok. It's Yale Cleaners. So it's a dry
Okay.
cleaner in somewhere, I think in like Tulsa, Oklahoma. And what I am so enthralled with by watching whoever is doing the marketing for these folks, by the way, kudos. Like the woman's voice, wonderful narrator. The music behind it is so nice and pleasing. But what is really enthralling to me about this is that these folks are taking vintage, old, stained wedding dresses specifically, and they go through the process of lovingly and carefully restoring and cleaning these wedding dresses so that generations of women can wear their wedding dress, and that these wonderful heirlooms can be restored. And it is attention to detail. It is incredible knowledge that this Bill, I think is the guy, big cowboy hat that's in these videos, that he has to have to know what are the right chemicals to use, what are the right steps, what takes out the stain, what takes out oxidation. But then to watch this man and the people who work at this place to like press. I could watch them iron and press these wedding dresses all day long. It is the most like soothing thing to come across my For You page. But I think one of the reasons why it's so enthralling to me and why I'm so enchanted by it is it's people. It is
Mhm.
people who are doing the work. And as the end of the videos, when the wedding dress, they show the before and after. And of course, you're always like, wow, can't believe that's the same dress. But then this man, Bill, he folds it carefully. He puts it in a box to send it back to the people who are now going to wear this at their very special day. And he writes this handwritten note on the outside of the box. It was like, it was a pleasure taking care of your dress. That is what I mean. Like that kind of
Mhm.
connection is something that AI is not going to be able to replace. You can have really smart machines that are coming in and helping you do your work in a way that's really important. But at some point, it's just somebody very carefully, meticulously doing work because they know that what they're doing is something that's meaningful to the person on the other side. So a little random, but loving these TikTok videos from these dry cleaners. And unfortunately, TikTok now thinks that I want to see like all kinds of dry cleaning videos. And I'm like,
Mhm.
not that much TikTok. Like,
Yeah.
calm down a little, but show me videos of Bill every now and then restoring these wonderful dresses. And it just makes me feel good.
I love everything about that. It combines like my love for like those rug cleaning videos
Right.
with like just care
Yeah.
for things. Like how that's like really beautiful actually.
Yeah.
Like
And
kudos Bill.
yeah, and I think both of our ripples are just getting back to thanking people who are doing their jobs really well. And it's
Yeah.
jobs that cannot be that we can't be, and that we don't want to be like taken away. Like we want these people to be doing this loving work. So I think our ripples may have other people listening to be able to say, like, who around me am I very appreciative of the good work that they're doing, and who could I thank today? So,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
All right, Court. Well, today's episode of the Burnout Room is sponsored by the Kentucky Psychological Foundation. If you'd like to help support our work bringing free mental health resources to Kentucky nonprofits, please consider donating at kentuckypsychologicalfoundation.org.
Yeah, a huge thanks to our producer, Sophia Schindler, for her amazing work, and to Mike Russell for composing our music.
And to all of our listeners, thank you all for being a part of our community. Please don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave a comment below about topics that would be most helpful for you or your organization.
All right, we'll see you next time. Fire alarm testing today. The fire system testing will take place today across all campus and buildings and will continue throughout the business day.
It's about to be a lit podcast, everyone.
Keep that in mind.
Excellent.
Oh, that's funny.